trying to reconnect emotionally with your partner amidst broken trust and addiction. I am Shauna White, Heartfelt Intimacy Coach, and I'm responding today to a question posed by a member of my flock. Speaking of that, actually, I need to share this video. Hang on a second. The other word for a member of my flock is a member of my Facebook group. So if you would like to be able to pose a question and have me speak to it in video, then please consider joining my group. There is a link pinned at the top of my profile, and I'm just going to share this video inside my group right now. There we go. Okay, so here's the situation. A relationship in disrepair for a few years now, and one partner struggles with addiction and has admitted that she's not sure she wants to break up with that addiction. And also some cheating. She indulged in a connection outside of the covenant of her marriage. And so her partner is trying to find how to pick up the broken pieces and put Humpty Dumpty back together again, right? He's looking for how to emotionally connect with her. So this is the situation I'm speaking to today. And the first thing that I want to highlight here is that addiction says a lot. Addiction says a lot. So when we want to have a beautiful relationship with someone, that entails that both people are able, both ourselves and our partner are actually able to show up in that relationship. So if we want gentle communication to sort out conflicts, then that means that both people have to be capable of, as an example, both people have to be capable of self-reflecting on the spot, breathing, separating their own experience from the other person's experience, being able to take responsibility for their own emotions, and finding how to see the situation without blame. Because whether you speak, you might be able to speak with I statements, but if you see your partner as a problem, that is going to come through in your communication. So gentle communication requires the perspective that I am not a victim, that I have complete dominion over my own feelings, and yet I may have some questions for my partner. But all of that awareness goes into the self-poise that allows someone to communicate with their partner gently to resolve conflict. So I say that as an introduction to, let's look at what is it that you want your relationship to be, and how capable is your partner of meeting you there? What are this is not pass or fail. This is not like, oh, my partner's not capable, so I'm throwing them out. I'm going to go find someone else who is capable. But you understanding what your partner is capable of or is not capable of allows you to come with more understanding and more poise yourself. It allows you to be less hurt when they fail at doing what you want them to do or what you hope to experience with them. That if you can recognize that they are what's standing in their way. Okay. So this gentleman would like emotional connection. That's his goal right now in his relationship. And that's a beautiful goal, and that's a sensible goal, and that's a completely reasonable goal in relationship. So let's look at the clues about where his partner's at and whether she's actually capable of meeting him there. So I know 3 things about his partner. That addiction is alive and well for her. She struggles with that. She struggles with it so much. Here's the second thing, that she is not sure she wants to actually get out. Sounds like she's got some thoughts she should get out, but she doesn't actually have the desire to depart from that addiction. And number 3, she did engage in some form of cheating. So I was just listening to a book yesterday that I'm working my way through called Why We Sleep. And this book had some very interesting information about addiction, actually, that I just got to yesterday. And that is that when people don't sleep well, the connection between the executive functions of the brain, the neocortex, the frontal lobe, is weakened between the frontal lobe and the emotional centers in the brain. So that leaves the emotional centers more vulnerable to activation. And that could mean more easily depressed or more easily excited. So when it comes to like the more easily depressed, we can understand that, like the negative stuff, but that also created a greater propensity for people to wax towards addiction or towards indulging in chemicals or situations that would create highs, because without the moderation or modulation by the frontal lobe, or the weakened modulation by the frontal lobe, their ability to hold poise was weakened. And so instead of holding their own healthy state, they leaned on things that felt good to go for an ecstatic high. So I don't know if this woman struggles with sleep. That could be a factor if she does. And even if she sleeps, it doesn't mean she's getting quality sleep, because there's a lot to sleep, as it turns out. However, I also know people who demonstrate that the executive function, the logical component of their mind, which I do not equate the mind and the brain. However, there's a connection. And so the brain I see as kind of a map of what's going on in the mind, but it's a feedback system that goes both ways. The mind stimulates and uses the brain for neural connections. I think the mind or the soul is the source of the electricity, and the brain is like the wiring. So if the wiring's screwed up, the mind or the soul has a hard time actually running those thoughts through. Anyway, so the weakness is on both sides, the side of the intangible thoughts and emotions, and the soul that is navigating that internal world of thoughts and emotions. And then it could also show up at the brain level. So anyway, I know people who have a weaker logical quality to their awareness, and they're more prone to emotional, they feel more easily, and they can go really depressed, and they can go kind of ecstatic. And I'm not even talking about people that are diagnosed with bipolar. It's just, it's a continuum. So if we're looking at someone who has addiction, we are talking about someone who most likely has lesser executive function, lesser logic, and more emotionalism, or they're more vulnerable and more interested at the same time in external stimulation to create how they feel. That's kind of how emotion works, is we think a certain way, and then we have a reaction to our thoughts. And that reaction is emotion. And there's a whole other range of how we can think and feel when we are more balanced and have more poise. And I'm not saying that logic on the other extreme is good. We need these things in balance. And the way that I have come to know balance, the way I achieve balance in myself was through finding how to balance my feeling and my thinking components of awareness and go deeper into the core of my being, where I could connect with the energy of divine love. Now, this is important because I had traumas, I had pains, wounds in my psyche that I kept on tripping over in my life experience. And the only way that those actually got healed and resolved was when I learned how to connect with the energy of divine love. And I healed my subconscious belief that I needed to fix those wounds with a love out there. When I really connected at the conscious and subconscious level, that the real truth of who I am is told by the energy that I feel when I connect with divine love in the core of my being. That healed my sense of self-worth. Now, when a person has trauma in their life, trauma in and of itself causes a separation between the executive function of the brain, or the conscious mind, and the subconscious mind by necessity, because when you have traumatic experiences, something's happening that you feel unsafe. And so you can't actually tolerate to be unsafe, like perpetually life-threatened. Your nervous system can't tolerate that. So what the mind-brain system does is the conscious disconnects from the subconscious. That is the mindal experience of this brain phenomenon that was detected in these sleep studies, of a weaker connection between the executive function of the neocortex and the other areas of the brain that were connected with emotion. So, so if this woman has had trauma in her life, that could be an area that needs to be healed in order to strengthen the connection of her her logic and her emotion. Okay, so this is, I'm going really kind of deep and detailed here, but for her to be able to show up in a way that he can trust, if she wants to, I'm going to assume that she wants to, okay? But for her to be able to show up in a way that he can start to feel emotional safety and emotional connection, she's going to need some stability in her own mind. And the expression of addiction is indicating that she has instability in her mind, that she does not, that there's a weakness in the connection between her logic and her emotion, which could be due to poor sleep. It could be due to trauma that has caused a dissociation that's disconnected the conscious from the subconscious. But in either case, this tendency that she has right now, this inclination that she has right now to stay with her addiction, to feed her addiction with the substance, is an expression of the weakness in her mind and her propensity to be aligned and loyal to her emotional needs. And emotion is capricious. It fluctuates wildly. And the reason why is because emotion is just a reaction to thought. Whatever you are thinking, your emotion is a reaction to that. So your thoughts can change all the time. So your emotion can change all the time. And it's really hard for another person to enter emotional intimacy with someone who has an unmodulated roller coaster of emotion, because where's the stability and the safety in that intimacy if you're going to enter intimacy with that kind of emotional, emotional waves, that kind of energy coming out of your partner? That's a hard place to be. Emotional connection depends on emotional intimacy, and both of those depend on safety. If you feel unsafe, you're not going to be able to really open up in a vulnerable way, which is how the intimacy actually comes forth. So these are the challenges on the table. Now, talking about the cheating, I don't know any of the details. However, that kind of behavior, generally speaking, is a behavior of not addressing what the problems are in life and going with an outside experience, just generally speaking. I do want to say that it's possible that someone can meet someone and have a learning experience. So sometimes there are gems that come out of an experience like that. If someone learns more about themselves in an important way, that's a possibility. But I would need more information to find out whether that's actually happened in this situation. The main thing at the level of information that I have is that I'm not surprised to hear that a cheating experience happened, considering the addiction situation, because we're talking about a soul that doesn't feel strong in how to feel loved in herself. She doesn't know how to hold that inner poise and that depth of connection inside herself that allows her to feel the energy of divine love in the core of her being. And she's grasping for what can she use to make herself feel better. And so she's using some kind of a substance addiction to do that. And an emotional or sexual connection outside of a marriage is another kind of a substance that someone might use to feel better about themselves, especially if the connection in the marriage is not strong or was not strong at that time. So it does not mean that there's no hope in this relationship, but it's important to start at a baseline of understanding what you're even up against when you're saying to yourself, okay, I want to emotionally connect with this person, but understand what their challenges are with showing up in the way that is going to make you feel safe to emotionally connect in the first place. And I think the next step, after really understanding that, is breathing and being with yourself a bit and feeling what feels right for you. And I don't mean that from a place of emotional gratification. I mean that from a place of connecting with your own alignment in the core of your being and determining what is your right move. What is your right move? What feels right? Because you're going to have to lean into your own relationship with the divine, which is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about what feels right, when I'm talking about inner alignment and inner connection. You're going to need the intimacy with the divine guiding your steps to let you know what's the right move step by step in this situation where you're going to get a lot of mixed feedback from your partner. It's not going to be easy and it's not straightforward because she has struggles that are going to give you negative feedback even when you're doing the right thing. So you need to be able to know what's the right thing inside your soul so that you can feel peace about your actions even when the feedback you get from her is not validating. And that can allow you to hold the root, the anchor that could possibly shine a light for her to come back to herself. If you anchor inside yourself so that you feel your connection with divine love in the core of your being, and you show up as a presence in her life, you know, a partner in her life, the offering of a partner in her life, where you have that steadiness in yourself because of your own relationship with the divine. She can feel that from you. That's where she needs to go to shift out of her addiction dependency to a place of greater connection in herself. She needs to feel that stability and that the healthiness of that inner love place. So if you can find how to hold that in yourself, number one, it's going to guide you well in your relationship to yourself, whether it guides you to continue to be in relationship with her or it guides you to move out of relationship with her. You're going to win either way, because that strength of connection inside yourself is going to set a harmonizing and peace developing and gentleness developing path for you and your walk and what you create in your life. But let's assume that that walk leads you to continue to walk beside her with a hand extended in partnership. That inner connection that you can practice with the divine inside you, that's what she needs to come to in order to feel the healing of her trauma, the healing of her self-worth, and to find a way of anchoring in herself that gives her safety and self-worth and inner poise to enjoy being in her own skin. That's what's going to give her a viable alternative to whatever it is that she's currently using to feel better about herself. So that was not a simple answer. That was a pretty deep answer to this question, but it is it's a gritty situation. And I don't think I could have said any less than that in order to really speak to the issue. So I hope that you found that helpful. And perhaps we will have a part 2. I don't know. We'll see. I'd love to hear how this landed with you, what feels helpful, and what your next questions are. Okay. Take care.